Alright guys, we're back and I am going to read more of The One and Only Bob by Katherine Applegate. And I have a huge bookshelf in my office. I'm sure you've seen it in other clips. But one thing I was thinking about is how I have so many books that I haven't read yet. So I took a bunch of my books off the shelf if I haven't read them yet. And now I have them all on a table behind me, or in front of me over here, and it's been kind of a fun challenge to just go through each day and think, which book do I want to read today? So anything you can do to try to get yourself to keep reading or stay in the groove of it, I think is really important, and even just listening to this read aloud is a great way to start. Don't forget that we have all of those read alouds on Overdrive through our library, connected to our local library as well as our school library. So if you are feeling like you want more books and I'm not reading fast enough or putting up enough videos, remember you can go in and watch that. So I'm going to get into it, and here we go. So we are on page 112, and it's called, the title is Marriage. Oh, first things first, gotta take my sip of coffee. Oh, wonderful. And something kind of fun that happened last week, I'm so grateful. My class did a little parade for me, and I was so incredibly happy just seeing their faces. It's so hard with quarantine to not be able to be in the classroom with you guys, but just being able to see you, it was amazing. And then they also gave me flowers, so all the flowers and cards and everything. My heart was so full, so thank you guys so much. All right, here we go. Marriage. Ivan and Kiani are a lot like George and Sarah, as far as I can tell. They grumble, they cuddle, they help each other, they tease each other. Sometimes it looks pretty nice. Still, and all, when I smell love, I almost always smell worry. Seems like they're tangled together so tightly they'll never unravel. There's a reason I avoid all that mushy stuff. One big difference I've noticed between the two couples, Ivan and Kiani enjoy eating bugs off each other. George and Sarah, not so much. Tiny but tough. Ivan always seems like nothing scares him, not even Kiani, who scares the heck out of me. On the outside, I suppose that's how I look too, tiny but tough. But inside, well, sometimes no matter how hard I try, I can't find that guy to save my life. It's like he's cowering in some sort of corner of my heart. I hate it when that happens. I hate that I'm not the guy my friends think I am, the guy the world expects. I keep waiting for things to go bad on me, worrying that my nice, tidy little dog life will blow up in my face. I think George is a worrier, too. He'll get up in the middle of the night and head into the kitchen sometimes, his old slippers scuffing on the wooden floor. I always hear him, always join him. When he opens the fridge, the light spills out like maple syrup on hot pancake. Wonderful scents drift my way. Leftover meatloaf, stinky cheese, expired yogurt that someone might as well eat, and it seems like the dog is the safest bet. The smells rain around me, and yeah, my tongue starts hanging out, and I nudge George's PJ'd leg. You can't sleep either, huh? He'll say. Or maybe, I can't tell if you have insomnia or just a very acute sense of smell. Both, actually. I wait. He usually makes himself a PB&J with banana, which is good with me, because the crusts are where you really get that fun chew factor going. Now and then, after we eat, we sit on the back porch, and George scratches my ears, especially my right ear. It's my favorite. I understand his worry, I think. George works so hard. His wife was really sick for a long time, and he loves his daughter so much. Sometimes when Julia climbs on the school bus, I'll watch George watching her. All that caring and concern is painful to smell, especially the briny scent of the stray tear he'll flick aside with the back of his hand like sea spray. More than once, George and I have dozed off together. That's the best kind of snooze, if you ask me. Good, warm, safe in someone's arms sleep. It's a beautiful chapter. Not talking. Often when I'm with Ivan, we don't even bother talking. We just look out at his domain, at the green grass, the crazy babies, and the swaggering juveniles, and the hard-working females, and we think of nothing and everything. When you've been through the worst with someone, you appreciate the best. That's why sometimes when he says, "Hey Bob," it's just enough for me to say, "Hey Ivan," and then we just listen to the palm trees rustle and watch the sawgrass sway. I really love that. I think that is true when you are with your people, whether it's good friends or just family, and you can just sit, and it's not an awkward silence, you know what I mean? Like just a nice, calm, good feeling. The other day I was noticing Mr. Daly and I were hanging out, and we had said good morning to each other, but we hadn't really talked much, and it wasn't because, there was anything wrong. It was just comfortable. That's kind of neat. Brave. Once when we were still at the mall, I told Ivan how brave I thought he was, the way he put up with everything and had happened to him and never stopped being a good guy. Ivan just looked at me, cocked that big old head of his, nodded a bit. "That's not brave, Bob," he finally said. "That's just knowing what I can't change." "I call it brave," I said. "I call it crazy brave." Ivan held a browning banana up to the light, like it was the most beautiful thing he'd ever seen in his long gorilla life. I wondered whether he was going to eat it or draw it. You never knew with Ivan. "Seems to me there are lots of ways to be brave, Bob," he said. A tiny mouse, name of Eek, skittered across his cage floor. "Hey, Eek," said Ivan. "Just checking for crumbs," she said nervously, because she always sounded nervous. "Dibs on the leftovers," I reminded her. She looked so terrified that I relented. "Over there, behind the tire, old Carrot Top." "Respect, Bob," she said, scampering off. "Take a small creature like Eek," said Ivan. He scratched his chin with the end of the banana. He did that when he was in a philosophical mood. Maybe brave for a mouse is different from brave for me or brave for you. He looked at me fondly. "You're the bravest dog I know, pal." "I ain't brave." I chewed on my tail, avoiding his gaze. "You are, Bob. Untamed and undaunted," said Ivan, and he chomped off a hunk of banana. He offered the rest to me, but I shook my head. I wasn't feeling hungry. Also, it was mostly just peel. "That's just my shtick, my routine." I hesitated. "I mean, sure, I'm tough compared to, say, Eek, but that's setting the bar pretty low." "You're too hard on yourself sometimes, Bob." I met his eyes. He has these dark brown, deep-set eyes, really kind ones, eyes that make you want to admit things, confess your failures. Once when I was little, just a pup, I did something. Ivan waited patiently. Ivan is the king of patience. I felt myself dashing into a dead-end tunnel I couldn't escape. I didn't want to go there, not even with Ivan. "Never mind," I yawned. "I do that when I'm anxious. I'm rambling." "Bob," Ivan said, "you okay?" "You know me, Ivan. I'm always okay. Always." I slipped away before he could ask me anything more. Ruby. "Uncle Bob!" Ruby races over, galumph, galumph, across the broad field that's part of the elephant domain. All right, guys, which type of figurative language is galumph, galumph? We learned about it this week. Onomatopoeia. So it's the sound. Remember we talked about all the different languages, how we all have different sounds for the animals and things that happen, like the train goes choo-choo. So galumph, galumph is onomatopoeia. She's so cute when she runs, like she's determined not to trip on her trunk. Ruby adores me. I make her laugh. I read the room. I lighten the mood. I gotta admit, I am kind of adorable. When I'm with Ivan, I think, "Pal, we've been through a lot, you and me. We are survivors." When I'm with little Ruby, I think, "Girl, look at you. Hard luck passed, and here you are, so much happier, so loved." Ruby, like Ivan, was plucked from Africa as a baby. She ended up in a circus that went bankrupt and then got shipped off to Max Mall. Ruby was taken in by dear old Stella. When Stella passed away, Ivan stepped in to play, well, elephant dad, I guess. I did my part too, because I felt like I had to. It just made life easier. Elephant toddlers are a handful. You think humans are bad? Try putting a 200-pound baby elephant in a timeout. And Mr. Shadow's joining me behind. You can see him. My little kitty boy. He just had half a can, because he splits it with his brother, of wet food. So he's probably ready for a nap. Ruby's family. Little Ruby seems much more content at the park, surrounded by her new herd. Old and young, and in between. They spoil that adorable pachyderm like you wouldn't believe. She deserves every minute of it. Kid had a rough start. Seems elephants hang out in packs of females. Now that she's at the park, Ruby has adoptive sisters and aunts and grandmothers galore. In the wild, the elephant guys head off, once they're old enough, and do their own thing. Sometimes I lose track of who's who among the elephants, because they're always taking mud baths, scrambling their smells. By the way, what kind of animal actually likes baths? Mud, sure. Ivan's art. Oh, and we get a picture in this one, so I'll show you. How's it going, girl? I call to Ruby as she stops near the moat edging the wall. I had a cantaloupe for breakfast, Uncle Bob, and it was yummy, and then I took a mud bath. She pauses to take a breath. Do you want to hear a new dog riddle, Uncle Bob? Of course I do, I say, and I catch Ivan's amused glance. What kind of dog is always on time, asks Ruby. Oh, and Miss Sophia's visiting us. Oh, little girl. You guys are so lucky you got 2 visitors today. She actually just got in trouble because she tried to steal the cat's wet food. So she was pouting a little bit earlier because we wouldn't let her have it. She has her bone and she has all her other treats, but she wants, of course, what she can't have, which is the cat's treats. You got me, Ruby. I'm totally baffled, befuddled, bewildered. What kind of dog? So do you guys think you know the answer to that one? What kind of dog is always on time? A watchdog, Ruby exclaims. Watchdog. Get it, Uncle Bob? Not bad, Ruby. Not bad at all, I say. Ivan says it's going to rain buckets, says Ruby. She dips her trunk in the moat and blows bubbles. I think Ivan is on to something there. Did he show you his new picture, Ruby asks. She grabs a tuft of grass and tosses it in the air. I wish I could see it, but I can't because of that silly wall, but he told me about it. My pal Ivan is quite the artist. Just like Julia. Ivan sits up and nods towards a spot on the wall. Another mud mural, I ask. As any good dog knows, dirt plus water equals mud, and mud means mess, and mess means let's roll in the stuff and maybe dig a hole or 2 or 10. But for Ivan, mud plus a flat surface equals a waiting canvas. I crane my neck, edging a bit farther down the top of the wall. Don't want to draw attention to myself. Hey, nice, I say. I mean, I'm not an art guy. To me, art is a glop of spray cheese on a cheese dog with extra grated cheese on top. Still, I've always admired Ivan's work. Ivan begins. No, I say. Don't tell me. Let me guess. You always guess wrong, Ivan says. Not always. You thought my palm tree was a dandelion. Art is in the eye of the beholder, I say. You thought my blackberries were giant ants. Kiani ambles up to join the conversation. And need I remind you that you thought his portrait of me was a chimpanzee with gas? The resemblance was striking, I say. Kiani glares at me. She glares at me a lot. On the subject of chimps. Probably I shouldn't have mentioned the chimp angle. Gorillas aren't as open-minded as dogs. A lot of them have a thing about chimps. They think they're clowns. But when I look at apes and gorillas, it seems to me they have a lot more in common than they admit to. Dogs ain't perfect. But I'll tell you one thing, where we rule. Tolerance. For us, a dog is a dog is a dog. I see a Great Dane. I say howdy. I run into a puggle. It's glad to meet you. How's it going? Smell any good pee lately? Go to a dog park and you'll see. We're equal opportunity playful. You sniff my rear, I'll sniff yours. You don't see that with humans, obviously. Constantly seeing differences where none exist. All those things, like skin color, dogs could care less. You think I won't hang with a Dalmatian because he's spotted? Or a Shar Pei because she's wrinkled? I'm not saying I love every dog I meet. Snickers comes to mind. But I'll always give a dog the benefit of the doubt. Life is short, play is good, and there are plenty of tennis balls to go around. A very handsome dog. Hi, Aunt Kiani, Ruby calls. Once again, Ruby, says Kiani, I'm not your aunt. I'm a primate. And you, my dear, are not. More's the pity. But if Ivan is my uncle, then you have to be my aunt, Ruby declares. Ahem, says Ivan, pointing to the wall. My painting, Bob? I consider. It looks like a dog. Ruby flaps her ears. I can tell she's trying very hard to stay quiet. A very handsome dog, I add. Is it? It is, Ruby exclaims. It's you, Uncle Bob. Uncle Ivan told me. But who's that? I ask, pointing to another set of mud strokes. I thought you needed a companion, says Ivan. I know you must get lonely at home all by yourself all day. It's true, but I never mention that to Ivan. Guy's like a mind reader. I think Snickers and Bob would make a cute couple, says Ruby. I blink in disbelief. Bite your trunk. Ruby starts to reply, but her voice is drowned out by a sharp clap of thunder. Storm's getting close, says Kiani. Ivan dear, come on, you know how you hate the damp. It's true. He carries around old burlap bags so we won't have to sit on wet grass. That's really cool. Ivan looks at me sheepishly. She knows me so well. Kudzu, one of the baby gorillas, bounds over and leaps onto Ivan's back. Ivan loves all the youngsters, but Kudzu is his favorite. I think she reminds him a little of his twin sister, Tag, who died when she was still a baby. So do you guys remember when we were learning about Kudzu this year, and I showed you all those pictures of the Kudzu taking over? If not, you need to Google that right now because those are some of my favorite things. So it's spelled Kudzu, Kudzu, an invasive species. And we have a little picture of Ivan and Kudzu. And the thing that really made me giggle about Ivan not wanting to sit on the grass, the wet grass, is that Miss Sophia, my dog, if there's any kind of rain or if the sprinklers have touched the grass or anywhere that she's supposed to go to the bathroom, she doesn't want to put her feet on it. And so in the wet season, it's always, she just acts like a princess, like she can't touch her little dog feet in the wet. But then she'll go digging, hip deep in the mud. So it made me giggle. Ride, Kudzu commands. Julia appears, her backpack at the ready. Bob, she calls, we need to get going. Ride now, Kudzu repeats, yanking on one of Ivan's ears. Looks like it's time to go, says Ivan. Good to see you, buddy. Stay dry, okay? Will do, big guy. I turn to Kiani, enchanted, as always, my dear. A trumpeting noise cuts through the air. Uh-oh, says Ruby. That's Aunt Akello. Akello, the oldest of the elephant ants, lumbers over. Come on, Ruby, weather's getting bad. Just one more minute, Ruby pleads. Now. But I need to tell Uncle Bob one more riddle. Now, Akello repeats. Nobody ever listens to the littlest elephant, Ruby complains. You can tell me the riddle next time, kiddo, I say, winking at Akello. Ruby brightens. Okay, gotta go or I'll be in big trouble. Love you, Uncle Bob. See you later, Uncle Ivan and Aunt Kiani. I'm not your... Kiani begins, but Ruby is already galloping back to her herd. The beginning. In the distance, thunder growls, long and low and not giving up. So, a little bit of personification there, because thunder doesn't actually growl. People can growl, but thunder doesn't. Reminds me of my stomach, pre-breakfast. I test the air. Weird. Something isn't right. Julia, it's George rushing over. Hurry up, you need to get inside. George has an odd scent, like he's on guard. I've only smelled it a few times on him. I look up. The clouds have turned strange shades of green, yellow, and gray, clustered together like rows of fat marshmallows. It's so ugly, it's beautiful. I can't stop looking. The air goes still, like a cat before it leaps on its prey. So, simile, like or as, like a cat. The air goes still like a cat before it leaps on its prey. This is so perfect. We should have done this week in our digital lessons. So, figurative language for the win. Here we go. Kiani and Ivan and Kudzu are racing towards the gorilla villa. A fat raindrop hits my nose. It tastes wrong. How can rain taste dangerous? People are yelling, running, opening umbrellas, covering their heads with maps of the park. More drops. At the far end of the field, I can just make out Akello herding Ruby along. Another drop. A dry one, like a pebble. Hail, George says. Julia, now! He grabs her hand. Rumbling, the sky boils and swirls. Bob, Julia calls. Come on! I move to leap off my perch to run to Julia. I've done it 1,000 times. But this time, I lose my footing. I never slip. I'm as nimble as Nutwit. But the rain, the hail. I let out a yelp as I land on Ivan's side of the wall, splat in the mud. Bob, Julia screams. He'll be okay, George says. I can smell Julia's fear, but George's doubt as he drags her away. so he can smell her fear and his doubt. Oh my gosh. You guys, Bob just fell in the gorilla. Oh. Oh no. Okay, here we go. Torn apart. Noise. It's all noise. Noise that hurts. Noise like a massive truck bearing down on us. The power of its engine, the inescapable wheels, the relentless roar. Nothing to see, nothing even to smell. Just the terrible sound of the world disintegrating. So to disintegrate is to fall apart. Oh my goodness. So this chapter just has one part. No way. I'm flying. Airborne. Not far, just into the nearby giraffe domain. Not high, just enough to buzz the tops of trees. Not long, just long enough to stop breathing. But I fly. I'm not alone. Half the world seems airborne. Trees, boards, bicycles, chunks of roofs, umbrellas, chairs, bits and pieces of life. It all levitates past like some horrible magic trick. Something hits my head. A toy truck maybe? And I yelp in pain. And I'm terrified, so scared I pee myself. And I'll be the first to admit it. You try it and see how dry your underwear stays. But still, I fly. Not like in the box with my brothers and sisters. Not like with the owl. This is different. This is me, Bob the dog, spending a moment as Bob the bird. So what do you think happened? They're in the middle of a storm. Yeah, so those big winds. Maybe it's a tornado that just picked him up. Oof. Sorry guys, I'm rubbing my nose. My allergies are so bad. It's just like, so itchy. Landing. It's over. I land, oomph, hard on my rear and slide to a stop directly underneath Stretch, the oldest giraffe in the place. The roar, and by now I've realized we're talking a real live tornado, vanishes as quickly as it came, leaving a vacuum. A silence that hurts even more than the noise. So here's our picture for this. Bad dog. And this is why I'm a bad dog. Not bad dog like I chewed your favorite slippers. Bad dog like I'm not a good representative of my species, of any species. I don't think. Ivan, Ruby, Julia, are they all right? I've got to find them. That's what a hero dog would do. One of those guys on the Man's Best Friend show. Hero dogs dash into flames and dig into trouble. Hero dogs are fearless. Nope, not my style. What do? Bob, untamed, undaunted? I howl like a newborn puppy. Honest. I'm not hurt. Banged up a little, sure, but nothing major. And I don't howl for long. But it's what I do. Like I said, I ain't a saint, but at least I'm honest about my failings. Stretch. Slowly, with some difficulty, Stretch peers down between his two front legs. His body partially shelters me from the rain. A piece of canvas has draped itself around his neck like an ugly scarf. I swallow my howls. We look at each other, too stunned to form actual words. Finally, Stretch clears his throat. Hello, he says in a strangely calm voice. What kind of animal might you be, if you don't mind my asking? Dog. Didn't think you guys flew. We don't, as a rule. I pick myself up, move out from under Stretch, and take in my surroundings. The pelting rain has slowed some, and the wind has dulled. What was that? Stretch asks, trying and failing to yank the canvas off his impressive neck. Tornado, I think. I've seen tornadoes on the Weather Channel. They looked like water swirling down a drain, if the water were black and full of trucks and tires. They looked like death. I gazed up at him. I have to crane my neck. You okay? Yep, says Stretch. But from what I can see, a lot of other folks aren't. Aardvarks. Across the way I hear something. A small squeak. Who lives over there? I ask Stretch. The Aardvark family, he replies. Lovely neighbors. Carefully I venture across Stretch's domain. The sky is dark as dusk. I hear a flutter of wings overhead. It's Mitch the mockingbird. He's missing some feathers. Bob, he calls, settling on a fence post. Was that you I saw up there? Yep. How are things looking? Not good. Lot of damage. Well, take care of yourself, I say. Likewise. He pauses to straighten a wayward feather. Little hint, by the way. Next time you fly, try flapping your paws. I make my way over a broken wooden barrier, tiptoe over some scattered glass and twisted metal, cross the paved path, and arrive at the aardvarks. More sounds. They're coming from what looks like a demolished keeper's shed. I hesitate, not sure what to do. It's a big mess and I'm a small guy. Also, my head hurts. I feel dazed, fuzzy. My ears are ringing. I yank off some small stray boards with my mouth. For the record, small stray boards have small stray nails in them. Underneath the boards are 3 shivering aardvarks, 2 babies and a mom. They're strange looking, I gotta say, with their long piggy snouts and bunny ears. So if you haven't seen what an aardvark looks like, I want you to look that up because they are so cute. You good, I ask? Well, what was that? The mother manages to ask. Some seriously bad weather. Is it over? I consult the wind. Doubt it. You think everybody's okay, she asks. Dunno, sure hope so. And then it hits me. Ivan, Ruby, Julia, George. Look, I gotta go, I say in a strangled voice. Any part of your indoor den survive? She nods. I think so. Go there. Lie low. Where's Pedro? The littlest aardvark asks. I feel my head with my front paw. A nice bump is forming. Who's Pedro? Our keeper. He'll come, I promise. Are you sure? The baby asks. I'm sure, I say, but of course I'm lying. Sounds. The eerie quiet doesn't last. Before long, the squeals and shrieks and brays and squawks of the animal kingdom crowd the air. Terror, confusion, pain. From far off comes the wailing of sirens. Car alarms blare from the parking lot. Now and then people shout. Cries for help translate into any language, human or animal, fish or fowl. Never want to hear those again. Never, ever. Smells. And the smells. Like I said, feelings have a scent. I figured I'd smell pretty much everything there was to inhale in this big old world. But the smell of sheer terror, of helplessness, of blood, of broken bones, of torn wings. Well, turns out there are a whole lot of smells I'd never encountered. Didn't know how lucky I had been. Surveying the damage. I picked my way past the devastation. The tornado has left a random path of misery. The African aviary is gone. Simply gone. The kids' farm nearby? Untouched. Although there are some very flustered chickens clucking like all get out from the safety of their hen house. I see a few people. Hopefully a lot of potential visitors were scared off by the threatening weather. It looks like some of the animals listened to their early warning systems, those little voices inside telling them something bad was coming their way. Quite a few seem to have taken cover before the brunt of the storm. Wish I'd paid more attention to my own internal weatherman. I pass the penguin viewing window, and the one that allows visitors to watch their graceful swimming. Several penguins are underwater, swooping and swiveling. Joe, Jim, I call, and they both swim over. Bert okay, I ask? Baby Bert pops his little head out of the water. Hey, Bob, did you know we're having a storm? Yeah, I noticed. All good here, Bob, Joe says. You? Yep, took a little flight, though. Daddy, says Bert. Can I fly? In the air? Nope, says Joe. You fly underwater. You're a penguin. Bob flew, and he's a dog. Bob's a very special dog, says Joe, and he gives me a look. A grown-up, just between us look that says, we're all right, but what about the others? So I'm going to show you a picture. This is the title of this chapter is Baby Sloth. I say goodbye to the penguins and continue on my way. So much has simply vanished. Walls, fences, barriers, netting. The orderly world of the park, with its careful lines defining territory, isn't so defined anymore. Many of the habitats are still entirely intact, but not all. What will this place be without fences and walls? You didn't need to watch the Nature Channel to know that certain animals like to eat certain other animals. I pass 2 squirrel monkeys swinging happily from the children's carousel. A pelican watches from her perch on a popcorn stand. I see a camel and a zebra together, looking stunned to be standing side by side. I notice a red lemur, Merlin, on a picnic table. Lemur eyes are always big if you ask me, but Merlin's eyes look like they're about to pop right out of his head. I make my way through the splintered wood and glass shards and approach the gift shop. It's ruthless. Stuffed toy animals are scattered here and there like they tried to make a break for it. An I Love Koalas t-shirt dangles from a tree branch. Around a corner I see a baby sloth, Sylvia. I think her name is. She's resting on a muddy plush giraffe. Hey there, I say. She makes a tiny noise. A sloth sob, I guess it is. Let's find your mom and dad. I'm not one for hugging and licking as such, but I give her a little nudge with my nose. Sylvia somehow manages to grab the giraffe, then looks up at me like she expects to hitch a ride. How the heck do you pick up a baby sloth? It's not exactly part of my job description, and sloths are, so, slothy. Carefully, I pick her up by her scruff, the way you do with a puppy. She puts that silly toy in her mouth, and off we go. Oh my gosh, this picture's so cute. Look at this. So see, she's got her little stuffed giraffe in there, and Bob's carrying her. For a dog that says he's not brave, he sure is doing a lot of brave stuff. It takes a few minutes, but I find her mom, Selma. I deposit Sylvia on a patch of wet grass. How can I thank you, Selma cries. No biggie, I say, and I head on, with fear in my belly, and the odd taste of sloth fur in my mouth. Make no sudden moves. I've ridden around the grounds of the park in Julia's backpack enough to know every inch of this place. I've even chatted with many of the residents. But now everything is topsy-turvy. I keep finding myself in places I don't want to be, like the wolf exhibit. Near the entrance, a sign lies crushed on the ground. It has a picture of a gray wolf with an arrow pointing one way, and another arrow with an emperor penguin on it. Oh, and there's a picture there, so you can kind of see the sign. To my right, I see a piece of hay stuck deep in a tree trunk like a pencil in a cupcake. To my left, water gushes from a pathside ditch, a broken pipe. The boiling sky has settled into a solid blanket of gray, and the rain's quieted to a steady drizzle. Still I smell more bad weather menacing in the distance. Tossed into a bush is a large informational display with a photo of 2 gray wolves. I don't see any fence or barrier or intact wall, and it dawns on me that grumpy wolves and tiny dogs might not make the best of pals, especially under these trying circumstances. Just as I start to leave, a wolf on the sign seems to move, to blink. Oh, he isn't part of the sign. He's next to the sign. It's Kimu. Hey, I say. No answer. Something tells me I should hightail it out of there. Something else is saying, make no sudden moves. I hate it when my brain disagrees with itself. I split the difference, crouching meekly, doing the whole submissive dog thing. Kimu locks his gaze on me, and I try not to make direct eye contact. A lot of animals find that threatening, but his eyes are mesmerizing, glowing, amber, and way too smart. He moves again. 2 paws appear. Big paws. Nothing like my feeble, shrimpy feet. These paws are the size of hamburger buns. Hamburger buns with lethal claws attached. Mutt versus wolf. I wait for him to launch into his pounce. Maybe if I time my escape just right? Yeah, sure. In a battle of the Chihuahua mutt versus wolf, even I wouldn't bet on the dog. But they break your neck before they eat you. That only seems fair. My heart's doing this crazy tap dance in my chest, and I wonder if he can hear it. I sneak a peek at him. Strangely, he just keeps staring at me. Quickly, I avert my gaze. Those eyes. Those chilling, dangerous eyes. It's me, Bob, I say. Kimu says nothing. He's panting hard. Maybe he's disoriented or even hurt. I try to speak again. My voice seems to be hiding somewhere deep in my throat. Another try. Kimu? He blinks. Are you all right? No response. Anyone else hurt, I ask? This time he seems to hear me. I don't know. His voice is a low whisper. Can I help? I ask, really hoping the answer is no. Suzu, I can't find her. All right then, I say. I'll, take a look. I poke around a bit, careful not to get too close to Kimu. A sour smell pours off him like sweat off a human. I don't see her, I say after a few minutes, but I'm sure she's fine, just a little shook up probably, hiding somewhere. He doesn't answer. I should go. I'm, looking for some friends, I say. Is there anything else I can do? He looks up at the ominous sky as if there's an answer waiting there. I don't know, he says. I don't know. I don't know. Oh, he sounds so scared. So we have a picture here. Gorilla world. I move on. I have to find my friends. Have to. But where am I? I leap over another mangled signpost with bent arrows. One way to Reptileville, one way to Lionland. I pass the mangrove swamp. A manatee pokes up her big head draped with Spanish moss like a silly wig. Two workers in yellow raincoats trot past me. One has a bloody bandage on his cheek. I need to stop. Regroup. Cool it, Bob, I tell myself. I'm panicking, not taking in the right data. I try to blot out the horrible smells, the awful noise. I concentrate, let my nose do the real work. A whiff of something familiar. Gorilla? It has to be gorilla. Full run, now. I cut my back left paw on a shard of glass, trip, fall hard on my nose, and cut it too. Dripping blood. I carry on. Find them. Find them. Find them. A massive old oak lies on its side at the entrance to Gorilla World. Huge tangled roots grope into the air like frozen snakes. And just beyond, where Ivan lives, is nothing but devastation. Help us. The stone wall separating Gorilla World and Elephant Odyssey is gone. Pieces of both domains mingle. An elephant toy here, a gorilla nest there. Part of the indoor gorilla space has crumbled to the ground. I scan the area where Ruby and her herd like to hang out. Nothing. No gorillas either. Out of nowhere the rain picks up, coming sideways, blinding me. The wind howls like a hurt dog. So, metaphor, wind, and like a hurt dog sound. This storm isn't over, not by a long shot. I leap over a pile of cement blocks, catching my hurt foot on something sharp. Yelp, keep going. Ivan, I call. Ruby. Nothing. I get to a slight rise, leap onto another overturned tree, and try to make sense of the damage. Red and blue lights cut through the rain. Police, fire engines, good. We need all the help we can get. I take in several lungfuls of the hideous air. It's too wet, too full of conflicting odors, a mismatch of scents I can't decipher, especially with my busted nose. The wind gathers speed, pushing at me with incredible force. Feels like I'll tear my ears right off my sore noggin. I can barely stay upright. Wind like that, storm wind, doesn't carry scent. It obliterates it. Help us! Help! It's a tiny, desperate voice. Maybe even Ruby's voice. Kudzu. I pick my way through the debris, trying to lock onto the sound. It ain't easy. Please help us. Climbing over the remains of the wall, the one I was sitting on, what seems like moments ago, I find myself at the bank of the moat. Ruby, I call at the top of my lungs. Uncle Bob! The sound of my name cuts through the gloom like a shaft of sunlight. There's so much figurative language, you guys. It's so wonderful. Ruby runs to the opposite edge of the water. She's maybe 8 feet away, but I can barely make her out in the torrential rain. You stay there, I yell, trying to be heard over the wind. I'll come to you. Oh. It's so hard for me to get this straight. There we go. I follow the bank until I come to a spot where several chunks of wall have tumbled into the water. 3 careful leaps, and I'm across. Ruby runs to greet me. She wraps her mud-coated trunk around my neck. And oh boy, am I happy to see that sweet little elephant. You hurt, Ruby, I ask. Is everyone all right? Ruby sniffles. Yes, but come quick. She dashes off before I can ask anything more. 5 of Ruby's aunts stand by the elephant side of the moat. Each one has her trunk plunged deep in the dark, muddy water. They look like a bunch of kids trying to find a lost toy in a swimming pool. It's almost funny, until I see what they're reaching for. A baby gorilla is in the moat. The tiny gal keeps grabbing for a trunk to hold on to, then slipping free. Her terrified screeches fill the air. It's Kudzu, Ivan's favorite. An idea. I'm going in, says Masiak, one of the younger aunts. Might make things worse, Akello cautions. Displace the mud, pull her down towards the bottom. I could go in, I suggest, the words popping out before I can swallow them. It's more mud than water, Bob, Akello shakes her head. You'd get as stuck as Kudzu. I don't exactly argue the point. I've got an idea, comes a small voice. All the aunties turn to Ruby, and she looks startled to have their complete attention. A couple of us get on the other side of the moat, Ruby says. Grab trunks. We'll make it like a, what do you call it? A sling, I exclaim. A hammock, like the gorillas have. I don't know, Ruby. Akello sounds doubtful. Kudzu grabs for Masiak's trunk with both hands. Wait, Masiak says. I think I've got her this time. Masiak lifts her trunk with deliberate slowness, carefully trying to support the baby gorilla. But once again, Kudzu can't hold on. She lets out a despairing cry. Down she goes, lower this time, her nose and eyes just visible. Okay, Akello says with a nod at Ruby. Let's give Ruby's idea a try. Masiak, Laleli, Elodie, cross over the far side. Zaina, Ruby, and I will take this side. It's so neat that they're all working together. And that's one of the really wonderful things that we're getting to see with our quarantine right now. People all working together to help each other. All three elephants move with surprising quickness to the spot where I crossed. They gallop back until they're facing us. It's strange to see them on the other side of the moat. With the wall destroyed, they're technically in Ivan and Kiani's domain. Move down a bit, Akello instructs. That way. She motions with her head. We want to scoop her out, not push her down. 3 on one side, 3 on the other. The elephants reach out for each other's trunks, creating a kind of cradle. Okay, now, says Akello. Lower carefully. Down they go into the muddy water. Ruby nearly loses her footing, so I grab her tail with my teeth. It doesn't really help, and she yelps, Ouch! But my heart's in the right place. Kudzu thrashes her tiny arms. Stay calm, I call. Easy for me to say. She looks over at me, and I'll never forget the fear in her dark eyes. And then she vanishes below the surface. Team Elephant. Hurry, Ruby cries. The elephants bend lower, moving like a giant elephant shovel. Where is she? Masika asks. Lower, says Akello. Lower, sisters. There, Ruby yells. No, wait, there. Up, Akello commands, and their interlocked trunks rise from the muddy water to reveal a tiny, trembling baby gorilla sitting in their makeshift sling. Oh, Kudzu, says Akello. Stay calm, baby. We're going to toss you to safety, okay? Kudzu gives a little nod. On my count, says Akello. Start swinging. 1, 2, 3. Up and over go the trunks, and up and over goes Kudzu. She lands with a little plop, onomatopoeia, on the gorilla side of the moat, right next to the Masiak's rear legs. Good work, everybody, says Akello, and good thinking, Ruby. Thanks, elephants, says Kudzu, wiping mud from her eyes. That was fun. Can we do that again? Akello takes a deep breath. Maybe later, sweetheart. Quickly, I make my way back over to the moat. Kudzu, I say, follow me. Let's find your ape peeps. Can I go with Bob? Ruby asks Akello. Akello touches Ruby's back with her trunk. I'd much rather have you stay here, dear. And it's May, I. But Uncle Ivan, Ruby pleads. I'll keep an eye on her, I tell Akello. I'm going, Ruby says in her most determined voice. Maybe I can help. I just help now. Akello hesitates, but finally gives a slow nod. Probably she figures there's no arguing with Ruby. She's right on that one. Ruby crosses the moat and joins Kudzu and me. Be careful, Akello warns. There's more of this storm coming. I got her, Akello, I say. You'd better have her, she warns. I think I flew, Bob, says Kudzu, and we weave our way through the wasteland that was Gorilla World. Yeah, me too, I say. It's that kind of day. So here's this picture. And the sign says Gorilla World. Oh my gosh, my allergies are driving me nuts. Do you guys ever get allergies? Ugh. What's out there? A handful of humans, firefighters and police, mostly have begun to roam the grounds, checking out the damage. We pass a park employee with a weapon slung over his shoulder and a net in one hand. Trank gun, he tells the passing police officer. We don't know what's out there. She nods. How fast do they work? On something like a big cat? He shakes his head. Not fast enough. I look over at Ruby. Stay close, kid. As we near the gorilla villa, what's left of it anyways, a screech hits my ears that makes the wailing police siren sound like mewing kittens. It's Kiani. She's frantically knuckle-running back and forth near the collapsed gorilla villa. Chunks of cement, shredded wooden beams, and bent metal lie everywhere. A cluster of gorilla females and juveniles huddle not far from some rescue workers. There's Mama, Kudzu cries, dashing towards a gorilla named Jody. I'm so horrified by the destruction that I've almost forgotten my muddy little charge. I really shouldn't be trusted as an ape sitter. Kudzu darts over to her mother's waiting embrace. Jody nuzzles her and strokes her and says soothing, motherly gorilla things. Thank you, Jody mouths to me. Don't thank me, I say, looking over at Ruby. Thank this little gal. She figured out how to save Kudzu. Thank you, Ruby. Isn't it Ivan's friend? Ruby gives a shy nod. We all helped. I provided moral support, I add. I flew, Mama, says Kudzu. Of course you did, dear, says Jody. Kiani's fresh wails focus my mind. I gotta go, I say. Ruby, you should stay here. I'm going for a no-nonsense voice, the one Julia uses on me when she calls me Robert. Let me see what's what. I'll be right back. No way, Uncle Bob, Ruby replies, just as firmly. I give up, but I'm afraid of what she might see, of what we both might see. Any sign of Ivan? Asks Jody. She shakes her head, a grim look clouding her eyes. With Ruby by my side, we approach the pile of wreckage that used to be the gorilla villa. At the same moment, Ruby and I gasp. There's Ivan's hand barely peeking through the rubble. Oh my gosh. This is so scary. Catherine Applegate, what are you trying to do to me? This is like all the feelings right now. Ivan! First we save Kudzu, then there's this. I need a sip of coffee. This is one of those books that you just have to read straight through. You can't pause because you have to, every page you're just like, what is going to happen next? So here we go. Not moving. I know that hand like the back of my own paw. No, Ruby screams. Uncle Ivan! I check the crowd. No sign of Julia or George. Nothing. No Maya either, or other keepers I recognize. Just a few employees, several rescue workers, and 2 or 3 dazed-looking visitors. Is he alive? A firefighter asks. Hand, whatever it's called, isn't moving, says another. Weaving my way through the tangle of legs, I climb up the rubble pile, sniff a bit, and bark my loudest. Yes, he's alive! Get your rears in gear! Bark! Just like those overachieving rescue dogs in the Man's Best Friend show. I listen for a sound from Ivan, a grunt, a cry for help. Nothing. Still, he smells alive. At least I think he does, and that's good enough for me. Xena. Another dog races over, a tough-looking German shepherd wearing an impressive glow-in-the-dark vest and some booty things to protect her feet from the rubble. But I hold my ground. This is my friend we're talking about. I lick Ivan's hands. His fingers twitch. Well, that's all it takes to get both of us barking like maniacs. More people gather. I see Maya next to Ruby, which makes me feel better. Name's Xena, says the shepherd. Bob. I nudge Ivan's fingers with my nose. Nothing. And this is Ivan, my best bud. Sorry to hear it, she replies, and I don't like the sound of her voice. With great care, and far too slowly for my taste, the rescue workers begin removing chunks of the wreckage and tossing them to one side. Xena and me, we mostly stay out of the way, but every so often I lick Ivan's hand just so we know we've got him covered. He knows we've got him covered. I glance over at Maya and Ruby. Maya is wiping tears from her eyes while she strokes Ruby's ears. Ruby is giving Maya a comforting trunk hug. Good old Ruby, wise beyond her years, that gal. I check the crowd again. Still no sign of Julia or George, and that's when a sickening thought hits me like a bite in the belly. What if Ivan isn't the only one under the rubble? Dragon. More police cars and ambulances arrive at the park. A handful of keepers stream in, too, looking frantic and confused. The weirdest thing of all, wandering throughout the destruction are random park residents, animals, birds, reptiles, residents who most definitely do not belong in the gorilla world. A police officer is chasing an armadillo. A great blue heron watches the mayhem from her position atop a giraffe statue. A wallaby pokes his nose out of a bush, his saucer eyes catching the fire engine lights. Nets, someone yells. We need more nets. An older gentleman holding a blue umbrella lets out a blood-curdling scream. Dragon! He cries. I swear to you, I just saw a baby dragon. Sir, says a keeper named Malik. No worries. That's actually a Gila monster. His name is Jillian. A paramedic raises a hand. They have, venom, don't they? They say a healthy adult won't die from it, Malik shrugs, although they'll be in some serious pain. Wonderful, the paramedic mutters. I glance over my shoulder to see Sarah running towards Maya. I can't hear her words, but I can definitely see the worry in her eyes. Xena's ears tip forward. They're getting the cutters and the jaws of life. Jaws, I repeat. I don't like the sound of that. It spreads metal. They're probably getting close. Come on, we need to get out of the way. I ain't going anywhere. I hear you, she says, and I can tell from the weary sound of her voice that she's had this conversation before. But the best thing for Ivan right now is to let the humans do their thing. I think about it. Figure she's right. I give his fingers one last lick. They don't move. Nothing. Nada. We pick our way to the bottom of the debris pile. Hang in there, Ivan, I call. We love you, buddy. I know it's crazy, but I listen anyways, hoping for a sign, any sign, that he's still with us. Hugging. I run to Kiani. Don't worry, I tell her. He's gonna make it. I can tell she doesn't believe me. From there I head over to Maya and Sarah and Ruby. Maya has a radio handset in one hand, and for some reason a young squirmy meerkat in the other. Sarah kneels down and hugs me tighter than any sweater she's ever knit. Bob, she cries, what happened to your nose? And look at your paw. Some dogs don't like to be hugged that way. I'm one of them. But Sarah needs to do it. I can tell somehow, so I let her. Isn't so bad, really. Loose. New police officers join us. Officer Williams, she nods at Maya. You're with the park, right? Yes, I'm Maya. This, Officer William pauses. We need to get this under control, ASAP. Winds are going to pick up, and we haven't even hit the eye. Storm surge could be an issue. This one's moving slow. We've got a skeleton staff here, says Maya, as the meerkats attempt to eat her earring. Early reports say maybe a third of the habitats are damaged or destroyed. She shakes her head. We've got some injuries and some possible fatalities, too. Human? Don't think so. Anything loose that could be a, problem? Maya presses her lips together. Yep. Such as? A couple of Florida panthers, gray wolves, python maybe, possibly an alligator or two. American alligators, not Chinese. I don't care if they're from Canada. If they can eat people, we're in trouble. They don't, typically. Typically, Officer Williams repeats. Well, that's reassuring. Sarah loosens her grip on me ever so slightly. Maya, she asks, voice trembling, have you heard anything on the radio from George and Julia? I keep calling, but the cell towers are down. Nothing yet, Maya says, but I'm sure they're fine. Nearest shelter's over at Lincoln Elementary, says Officer Williams. You could check there. Sarah frowns. They were probably here right before the tornado hit. We're searching the park, ma'am, says the officer. We'll find them if they're here. Everybody clear out. A firefighter with a megaphone yells from a spot near Ivan. Could be danger of more collapse. We're working on this last metal beam. I look to see if Ivan's fingers are moving. Nothing. Hold on, Ivan, I yell. Nothing. Sometimes nothing is the worst sound in the world. Ruby lets out a little elephant cry, and then I realize maybe that's the worst sound in the world. CPR. The wind dies down to a whisper, as if the world is holding its breath along with the rest of us. Do you have any vets standing by? Asks Officer Williams, as two more ambulances screech to a halt nearby. Yes, Maya nods. Not sure when they'll get here, though. Officer Williams waves down an ambulance crew member. You ever give CPR to a gorilla? Primate's a primate, I guess, he says, but he doesn't look too sure. What's going on? We're waiting on equipment, but we're stretched pretty thin. A lot of structural damage on the north side of town, says Officer Williams. They're going to get a chain on that last beam. Try pulling it free with one of the cars. Somebody under there? Gorilla, we think. Not sure what else, or who else. I look at all the cement, all the wood and metal. Nobody could survive that. Not even a silverback gorilla with the strength of 8 men. And yet, Ivan's fingers moved. And then they didn't. Several minutes pass. The rain slows a bit, along with the wind. The crowd watches as 3 firefighters attach a long chain to the metal beam next to Ivan, then hook it to a tow bar on the rear of a police car. Back up, folks, calls the megaphone guy. Farther. The chain clanks, the car growls, the wheels squeal. Grinding, groaning. Progress. Just a bit. The big chunk of metal has definitely moved a whisker or two. More grinding. Wheels dig holes in the ground. Mud flies like thick brown rain. A lurch. A snap. Clanks and rumbles as the big beam jerks free. The rescue workers move in, digging with their bare hands. Cement and dust and metal and bits and pieces of gorilla world are everywhere. But where is Ivan? No. No movement. Nothing. But after a few more minutes, one thing is clear. A gorilla-shaped mound has appeared, covered by dust and dirt and debris, and splattered with rain. It just lies there. I've lost a lot in my life. Oh, see, I told you guys I was going to cry. This is so intense. I've lost a lot in my life. My whole family. Stella. But Ivan? No. It can't happen. Not Ivan. Miracle. The mound sits up. Yay! I'm so happy. Oh my gosh. Yay. Ivan. Gorilla Ghost. Ivan emerges from a cloud of dust like a jumbo-sized ghost. He blinks several times, coughs, shakes, stretches a little. He's holding a banana, which he proceeds to eat. Everyone, and I do mean everyone, cheers. Oh my god. It's so good. Okay. Wolf on the run. Whew, now that that's over. I scramble over to Ivan, and he gives me a look that says, "You're the best, Bob." "I thought you were a goner," I say, licking some banana goo off his chin. "Me too." Ivan seems a little dazed. His eyelashes are white with dust. "What happened, anyway?" "Tornado. Ruby okay? Kiani? Julia? George?" "Haven't seen Julia or George yet. Kiani's over there, carrying on." A paramedic holding a box of medical equipment approaches us nervously. "I've got this," calls a woman I recognize as one of the park veterinarians. The paramedic looks happy to step aside. The vet gently but firmly pushes me out of the way. "I'll be back," I tell Ivan. I run to Kiani. He's good, totally good. The look of joy in her eyes makes me want to give her an affectionate nose nudge. Almost. From there I join Ruby and Maya. "I was so scared, Bob," Ruby whispers. "Me too," I admit. "Me too. But he's fine, I promise." We watch a pair of otters dart past, chased by a guy with a net. One of the firefighters who'd been clearing debris yells, "We're clear here, no sign of other victims." Sandra closes her eyes and I can smell her relieved tears, while Maya listens to her walkie-talkie trying to take stock of the damage at the park. Officer Williams' police radio hisses and crackles with new problems, new flooding, new dire predictions. "Copy that," she says into her radio. Even with the chaos and noise, I'm close enough to the radio to catch the tiny sound of frantic barking. "We've got a unit reporting the animal shelter down the street's flooding," Officer Williams says. "Also, we've got a trailer park damage on 12th Street, an oak down at Nelson Avenue blocking traffic, and a big rig overturned near the fairgrounds. And that's just for starters." Out of the corner of my eye, I notice something airborne. It's graceful and bold like a huge wingless bird. The crowd gasps. It's Chemo. He lands on the hood of Officer Williams' squad car. His eyes are glazed, his coat wet and shimmering. "We've got a 1091 here," Officer Williams whispers into her receiver. "Confirmed. Seems there's a wolf on top of my vehicle." Slowly, she reaches for the pistol on her hip. "Please advise." Oh no. Shots fired. Several officers raise their guns. The tranquilizer dart guy takes aim too. "No," Maya yells. "No guns!" Kimu blinks, eyes darting right and left, then leaps off the car with such grace and speed, it's like he owns the wind. 2 shots ring out. Silence follows. "Was he hit?" someone asks. Maya closes her eyes. "I sure hope not." "I sure hope so," someone else says. Jungle. As I watched that leap, watched Kimu fly, I didn't know what to think. Part of me was like, "Go for it, dude." And the other part of me was thinking, it's a jungle out there. A situation. Officer Williams climbs onto a picnic table. Someone hands her a megaphone so she can be heard over the din. "Folks," she yells, "listen up. We've got a handful of animal control workers coming over, but several roads are already flooded out, and the weather guys are saying Gus is going to take his sweet time. Meanwhile, park supervisors, call in more help, but only if your workers can get here safely." The unmistakable roar of a big cat rolls over us like slow thunder. "Any more trank guns?" Officer Williams asks the park director, who's just arrived. 3 in reserve," she answers. "Nets?" "We have dozens." "Okay then," Officer Williams' radio crackles. I can hear more shouting, more barking dogs. "Shelter's flooding," she says. "Yeah, that's happened there before," the director says. "Usually just a foot or 2 of water." "Okay, public safety is where we start." Officer Williams wipes rain from her forehead. "We need to get the word out that these animals are on the loose." "Of course," says the director. "We have protocols in place, but we need to be careful how we word this. People might overreact, might—" "Ma'am," the firefighter interrupts, "I see a python in my backyard. I'm sure as heck going to overreact." "First things first," says Officer Williams. "Triage in the main office. check wreckage for any survivors, human or animal, fan it with tranq guns, get an inventory on how many animals are loose. I wonder how it's possible that Officer Williams can seem so composed. The air reeks with fear from animals, birds, people, from me. And yet she doesn't seem worried about herself, just other people. Weird the way some humans stick their necks out for others. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense, does it? Again the crackle, the hiss, the barking. My ears perk up for a minute. Was that a familiar voice? Maybe someone I know was in the slammer. I'm going to the shelter at the elementary school, Sarah says. Her hands are trembling, but her voice is firm. To look for George and Julia, just in case. She strokes my head and I'm happy to let her. I wonder if I should tag along with her, see if I can help out, now that I know Ivan and Ruby are safe. Hiss, crackle, meow, bark. I hear it again. My ears go on alert. My body goes rigid. No, it's impossible. Never. Some barks you never forget. One place. I know what I have to do. Despite the turmoil all around me, the noises, the smells, the fear, the confused humans, the frantic animals, despite my worry about Julia and George, I know there's one place I need to be. A split second. I want to tell Ivan and Ruby, but Ivan is still being poked at by the rhymes with pet threat. Although, come to think of it, she doesn't seem like much of a threat. In a movie, she'd be one of the good guys. To my annoyance, Sarah picks me up. I hate being picked up, unless it's my idea, but it's totally cool. Maya, she says, you let me know first sign of George and Julia, okay? Promise, says Maya, and she places her hand on Sarah's shoulder. Humans, always with the touching. Although I kind of get it under the circumstances. You can't take Bob to the school shelter. They're not allowing any more pets, Maya points out. And the animal shelter is flooding. It sounds like. Why don't you leave him here? I'll put him in my office. He'll be safe. No way is that on my agenda. Sarah nods. Good idea. She starts to hand me over, but hesitates when she realizes Maya still has a meerkat wrapped around her neck. It's just a split second, but a split second is all it takes to escape when you're Bob, untamed and undaunted. On my way. Bob, Sarah cries. Grab that dog, Maya yells. I spent a good part of my life running from a certain guy named Mac, and I still have my moves. I twist and spin and dip, and before you can say, yes sirree, Bob, they've given up. I backtrack, slip under a bench, and make my way to Ruby. Ruby, I whisper, I gotta go. Something important's come up. You and Ivan see if you can find George and Julia. I want to come, Ruby says, stomping her right foot in a huge puddle. You need to keep an eye on Ivan, I said. Make sure Kiani doesn't drive him loco with her sobbing. I'll be back before you know it. I don't wait for an answer. I'm off into the wild, into the world filled with wind and rain and wolves and alligators, with a voice that could rip my heart in two. So what voice do you think he's hearing? What is he recognizing? All right, we have made it. This is part 3 next. So I think, yeah, I'm gonna pause here, but I'm gonna make another video today. So it just takes so long to upload these if they're too long. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Dry my face from all the crying, and I hope you are ready for the next part. Okay, bye guys.